Hello, TGT World. Hello, Saf. Hello, Chris.
Hello.
Hey,
Great to see you guys. All right.
yes,
Hi,
great to see you
Ralitza.
guys.
Hello, TGT World. Ralitza is with
Saf.
us
Hello,
from.
Chris.
Hello.
Hey,
Great to see you
Oh, guys,
guys.
do I hear?
All
hello,
right. Do
great
I
to see you
hear?
guys.
Hello, TGT World.
There's a
Yeah,
lot
you
going
should
on right
uh, you
now.
should
Chris.
stop sharing
Hello.
your
Great to see
sound
you
from
guys. Do I
from your
hear?
Zoom.
Do I hear?
Yeah.
Hello,
There we go.
Hmm.
Okay.
I thought Seth just lost it there for a
Wow.
second.
I
The,
thought
the
we all
the
just
look on
moved
his
to another
face was
dimension.
like, okay, that's it. Now someone really doesn't want us to do this show.
Hmm.
But
Or
why am I still
finally, the
hearing an
laws of
echo?
physics are beginning to bend. No, we're
Do you
good now.
still,
Can you hear
am I the
us?
only one who still hears an echo?
You're solid. You're solid
No.
now.
Okay, we're
He
good?
he's hearing
Okay,
an
fine.
echo still though.
No, now it's gone.
No.
Wow, that was
Okay.
so
Okay.
weird. I thought we were out and it was still going on.
Okay. Well,
Okay,
it
hi
kind of
everyone.
now your job, Seth, is to relate it to the topic of the show, which is totally doable.
It's no
Oh,
problem. No problem.
totally chaos
Yeah.
and design on purpose. First, before we get into there, I'm happy to see hello GP in Jersey City. So we have somebody else from New Jersey here. That's great. I'm also in New Jersey.
Hmm.
Leela in Casablanca. Leela, I have a childhood friend who just got back from Morocco. He's looking to set up a music festival in
Mhm.
Casablanca. So if I'm there, I'll let you know. And our great
Some of my
friends
roots are in
always.
my are in Morocco, by the way, Leela.
Really?
So
I thought
yeah,
Iraq.
yeah, that's the mother
Well, he
side. The
said some of his roots.
father side is Morocco. Yeah.
So
I don't have a
interesting to
Moroccan
And
be a.
story.
yeah.
No
So
correct. No
interesting.
connection to Morocco.
Yeah, unexpected. Yeah.
Um, all my people are like Russian and Ukrainian.
Hmm.
Okay, so we have Chris. Where are you from? Where's your people from?
I'm like 95% English. I do have 1% Middle Eastern.
Ah, interesting.
That's it. And Scandinavian. I did one of those DNA tests. They got me now.
They can make a weapon designed just to get you now, God forbid.
They will.
Okay, so hello, Raymond in Kentucky. Wes. We will be in the Netherlands. When will we be in the Netherlands? At the end of May, right?
We will all be in the Netherlands, all three of us. We are coming to the KabU
How fun.
retreat, end of May, beginning of June, May 20, May 30, May 30, May
30,
30. May 30, June 1, June
31,
2nd,
31.
all of
Can't
those
remember.
3 days, KabU retreat. Go to retreat.kabuconnect.com for the details. How was
Say it
that
again a little slower.
Nice plug.
Say it
unexpected
slower.
plug? Yes, go if you want. There is a KabU retreat. We're very excited every time this event is around the corner. It's really exciting, and we're all gonna be there, all three of us physically, and we're excited to meet everyone who's gonna come. It's going to be awesome. If you want details and registration, tickets, everything, go to retreat.kabuconnect.com. I'll put the link in
Hub,
the
you connect. Yeah,
chat
put the
too.
link. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, bom dia to our friends in Brazil. I see Eugenio and Atlanta and Tennessee and Lagos, Nigeria. Wow, incredible. England, Peru, hola, Canada, North Carolina, England, Alabama, Vancouver, Utah, Pittsburgh. Wonderful. We're so happy to have everybody here. This is going to be a great one today because just like we accidentally started off the show with a little bit of chaos with the sound playing from three different places all at once and looping over and saying, "Where am I? What's going on? This isn't what I expected it was going to be." Don't we all feel confused about what the heck is going on in this world? And that's the wisdom of Kabbalah is very always actually pulling some answer out of some place you never, like in a magic trick. Like as soon as you see it, you're like, oh, like it looks like someone's floating, and then you see how it's done, and you're like, oh, that's like what happens with the wisdom of Kabbalah. Like you're seeing something, it's like, what? There's no possible way, and then you're like, oh, so when the wisdom of Kabbalah comes along and
Hmm.
like pulls back the veil, you see what's happening, how the trick is being done, and not only that, but you also understand why it happened. Because I always think to myself, like if I was God, I would have done all of this much better, like a lot less
Sure.
suffering and worked everything out for everyone. So like, why is it done like this? Why does everybody suffer so much? What is all this?
Hmm.
we're all used to being lied to, right? Like since we were born. Do you have a tooth fairy, by the way, in Israel? I know it's like a Jewish country and there's no tooth fairy in
Uh,
Judaism, but do you
we
have
do
a
in our
tooth fairy in
house.
this?
We
I
do in our
mean,
house.
not
Do you know what the
really.
tooth fairy
It's
is?
yes,
Give
yes.
So
it
where do
a.
your teeth go? If you're a kid and you lose a tooth, what happens to it?
It's a bummer. It's,
Okay, so in the United States, I
it's
don't
just-
know actually if this is an international
no,
thing,
no.
but
There
like,
is a tooth fairy, but it's just less common here. Yeah.
but there is a tooth fairy that visits Israel as well.
And, you know,
So for those of you from
it's a
Nigeria,
little
Morocco who might not
lazier. It's a lazier fairy, but it
lazier fairy.
comes for
So
And
some
they pay in
people.
shekels.
for those of you who might not know, in the United States, I think it's still a thing. When a kid loses a tooth, he puts it under his pillow, and he wakes up in the morning and his tooth is gone, and there's a dollar there, a piece of candy there. I don't know. It's been a long time since the tooth fairy
Piece of
visited,
candy. That's funny.
but
That's so ironic.
there is no news flash. You don't need the wisdom of Kabbalah to tell you this. There's no such thing as a tooth fairy. But for some reason, the parents, instead of saying congratulations on losing your tooth and here's a hug and like you want to go, here's a dollar, they go through this whole ridiculous thing of lying to the kid that there's a fairy who's going to come and take your tooth and do something, right? We also have the Easter Bunny here. I'm Jewish, but we also had Santa Claus. You know, we knew that he didn't come to my house, but all my Christian friends, he
Mm,
came through the chimney and he brought
Hmm.
presents, right? Like they just like
right.
from right away, as soon as you can start to to understand what's going on, you're being lied
Yeah.
to. Then you become an adult. Politicians are super famous for this. There was a bill that passed. Where was I in my life? I don't remember where I was in my life when it came out, but I remember hearing about it. So there's a bill that corporations are allowed to donate more freely to politicians. Okay, so
Hmm.
so what
Right.
happened was the corporation got like rights of an individual, and meaning that an individual
Hmm.
has freedom of speech, freedom of expression. So the corporation does too, and the corporation is allowed to donate to politicians. And the name of the bill, Citizens United.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Citizens United.
Nice.
And it's classic, like with the when an oil company, for example, needs a bill about being able to drill in a certain part of the Gulf of Mexico. You know, they call it like saving our seas, you know, or
Yeah.
some bill
Hmm.
like this. So you hear about, of course, I support the bill called Saving Our Seas. Of course, I support
Right.
the bill called Citizens United, right? But what it looks like on the front and what it actually is are two different things. We're just being lied to. Like nothing really is what it seems.
Right.
I
Yeah.
visited some
It's
relatives
funny that
this past.
it's so institutionalized in modern society that we don't even expect it to be different. That's what's so crazy. I mean, what's the marketing industry, the advertisement industry? It's like literally its stated goal is to create a need that doesn't exist necessarily, that you don't actually need. You know, literally, like we have
Hmm.
entire like faculties and universities and research and science and experiments and, you know, smart people and experts. Everything goes into creating and, you know, this needs that we don't have. It's a very interesting situation, very human. It's
It's
a
this
very
separates this step.
human thing.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
this is what separates the humans from the animals. An animal
Yeah.
has his needs, and
Hmm.
that's it. But the human, the reason actually what will enable us to be able to launch ourselves into spirituality is exactly this need that
Hmm.
humans have that animals don't have, which is like, oh, look, those guys both have plaids. I want a plaid, you know, or
Uh-huh.
You went there.
he has that kind of
Yeah.
car. I want that
Nice.
kind of
Nice
car.
one.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
drinking a coffee. I need to go get a coffee. Like we see the desire, we see the fulfillments that everyone outside of us has. And
Oh, Seth, I have a story about that. Like it was like watching this theater unfold. We I don't want to get into details about what it is, but basically our apartment building, we wanted to get demolished, right? Because it's not safe. And
Mm.
but here I am, just waiting, you know, for it to fall down. But so it has to be approved kind of by the city. So
Mm.
all of our tenants who live in the apartment have to go and you find like a like basically someone who's contracting. Doesn't matter. Everyone, you have to get like 70% agreement that this is what the thing that you want to do. For some people, it's not. They'd rather just not deal with it. While we were there, some of the complaints. Basically, you're getting a new apartment in the end, so it's great. Like you got something old, you're gonna get a new one, and for free, it's gonna be like way more money. You can sell it, you can make money, you can just live in a nice place. It's fine. But some of the complaints, it was interesting. The complaint was like, okay, but I saw that those people that they got, what they got was a little bit bigger, or like this person down here got like a parking spot and a half. I'm not willing to sign anything, until I can somehow get like my compensation. And like the thought is like you're getting you're getting basically like a
Yeah.
million shekels,
Yeah.
like in your pocket. But they can't. It's like blocking them, it's like no, wait a second, something's not fair because these people over there are getting that thing over there, and I kind of actually need that. And it's keeping them from doing something that's ultimately very beneficial for them and also everybody else. But it's just this block that a person cannot get through. It's like they're looking at other people. They always say the grass is greener on the other side, but it's exactly like that. Exactly like that. Very
And it
human
becomes
quality.
so
And
real,
that's
right? Like a
Yeah.
person can't
mhm,
get over it, then it becomes like a
can't.
legitimate hurdle. This
Yeah.
past weekend, I visited a relative, and 2 weekends ago, I visited another relative. Both were great experiences. We talked about history, family, life. So the first relative, like you get up in the morning, it's a sunny place. You walk into the kitchen, you're gonna get a coffee. The first relative, Fox News is on in the morning. It's what it is. No better than to, you know, get too much into it. But Fox News and da 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 ba 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 all morning long. Fox News. Asaf, are you frozen?
No, I'm
No, okay.
just
He's
Fox News.
just really
Fox.
still.
Really interested in what I'm saying, right? Um, two weeks later, I visited another relative. Same thing. Nice weather. Go for a walk on the beach. Talk about life. Talk about family. But the morning, wake up, stretch a little bit, walk into the kitchen. And if you don't know, Fox News is very, very right, or more right wing, right? Right wing conservative. Second relative, walk into the kitchen in the morning, make the coffee, and it's MSNBC. And the whole
Mm.
thing doesn't matter what's going on in the world, just bashing Trump, just left, 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 very, very liberal. Both of these are loving people. Both these people want the world to be better. But both of these people are being told every day that the other one is dumb, doesn't know what's going on, is the enemy of the country. We and then you go out into the world like with a head on. Like these two people can go out into the world. They wouldn't even know if they were just meeting each other like this, but if they started talking, they would start to have to be adversarial against each other because they had the world is being set up in a way, their world is being set up in a way that I'm right. No, I'm right. And there's no place whence the two can meet.
Yeah.
We have this polarization all over the place. Hold on here. Just a second.
What, you're showing something?
No,
I'm
no.
okay. I would
Okay.
say it's not just polarization. It's also um, questioning everything. Meaning, if I thought that something was true today, I'm not so sure. If I thought that there are some basic fundamental truisms that we all agree on, now even these things are debatable. And these could be very, very fundamental things, like what's a man and a woman? Today, it's not such an obvious question. It really depends who you ask. It really depends who you talk to. And it's not just the gender debate or the racial debate or the political debate. The landscape of how we exist, also the digital landscape, which is becoming increasingly more and more our, like, kind of like humanity's common neighborhood, or humanity's common,
Mm-hmm.
like, place where we all kind of are supposed to share our reality. That becomes a place that is rife with, dishonesties, and the more,
Mischief.
yeah, and I mean, it just, I think as time progresses, we'll start questioning anything we see, because anything could be AI generated, anything could be a fabrication, any news you see could be fake in order to push you towards a certain agenda, like you were giving the example of those
Let's make a discernment
news
about it. Like,
channels.
for
Yeah.
example, in Ireland, there was the Protestants fighting the Catholics in Ireland fighting the Protestants for, okay, as an example, for a couple decades. In Tosh,
Our
obviously you know
friend,
Tosh.
our friend,
His
yeah.
grandma's
Mm-hmm.
from Cyprus. I was talking to
Mm-hmm.
him this week. So in Cyprus, the southern part of Cyprus is controlled by the Greeks, and the northern part of Cyprus is controlled by the Turkish, and they were always fighting with
Right.
each other.
Mm-hmm.
Korea, you had, North Korea, South Korea. Vietnam, there was the North and South. The United States, there was a civil war between the North and the South. But in all of these situations, you can
Mm-hmm.
point to, I don't know, it's communists versus capital democracy, or it's Protestants versus Catholics, or it's Turkish versus Greeks, or something. Today, it's like you can't exactly put your hand on it. Like we're just it's like
Yes.
you
And
try, it's just more
and
like
and and
there's
every person. Not what? Go ahead. Say it.
it seems to me like it was more like simple, like almost good guy, bad guy or something.
Mm-hmm.
Today, there's no way to make sense. Like, wait a second, I'm in Israel. Hamas just attacked me. Why is the world saying that I'm bad? Like, I'm
Right.
not like everything. Like, wait, I thought I was a man. Wait, I'm not actually a man. A man depends on who I like. What is
Is it
uh
biology? Is it psychology? Is it sociology? What's going on? What defines
where what can
what
I, yeah,
this
where
or
is
that?
this
Yeah.
is this solid ground
Yeah.
that a person can be on, and what is nature doing with us that it seems like there is no solid ground.
You
Yeah.
mentioned
It's very unsettling.
I think unsettling and uncertain, and I think that a lot of people feel what we're talking about right now. I really do think, yes, Seth, you can, this is me giving credit to people. Again, I really do think a lot of people feel this. But they're not necessarily expressing it the same way we do. But I think that that this is a nerve right now in
Yeah.
modern society. I think a lot of people feel that, from many different aspects, many different perspectives, we're not standing on the same ground. There's no collective solid ground that we're all kind of standing on. And if you think about this in the perspective of, a few hundred years, let's say, or more, of human development, then you see this period of time we're in right now is actually very, very weird and very interesting too. I mean, most conflicts between people in the past were probably about territory, right? I mean, like, one group of people wanted to expand their territory. They go to another place, they fight that place, they fight those people, and so on. And the thing keeps going and going. Today's conflicts between
Territory,
people,
or my God is better than your God or something.
Yeah.
right? Right.
Ideologies. Yeah.
The yeah, but territory, or my God, your God, and so on, or my king, your king. There's still a lot of, some sort of, tribal connection between people. We're all serving the same king. We're all part of this dynasty. We're all like part of this tribe, if you even go back, right? There's like some homogenous quality between people who live in the same place. Today, a human being is divided in we're divided in amongst
Right.
ourselves, not just between the people who live right next to us in our city, in our country, but also in ourselves too. The kind of conflicts that we have today, they're very unique to the human level of existence. You know what I mean? It's not fighting over resources only. It's a lot of it is about worldviews. It's about race, about gender, about who's right, about who's wrong. We fight about who's the aggressor and who's the victim, even though it should have been very, very obvious in some situation. And so, because of that, and of course, the internet effect and the digital world and everything that's happening there compounds this. And so we get to a point where it seems like we're losing that collective ground we were talking about. Like there's no basic, fundamental, solid ground of this is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad, this is true, this is false. And also,
And the
what
problem,
really matters. That's another big thing, because you know what I mean? Like I think it was very clear to people in the past that you need to have food and water and, and a roof over your head. And other than that, you're basically, I don't know, serving the king or, helping the tribe. I don't know, depending on where you lived and when. But today, everyone has their priorities and their like interests and their identities. A lot of the conflicts that we're having today, they're about identity. Look at the huge role that identity plays in politics, for instance. You can't even separate, politics from
And
That's a,
consumerism. And consumerism. I
oh,
mean,
absolutely.
you mentioned marketing before, and all of a sudden, that gets pulled into to a product, and then people have this reaction to a product. So financially, it's even economically, it's even having an effect.
But anyway, it's a weird like uncharted terrain. It seems like that we're going into. It just seems like everything's debatable. Nothing is agreed upon by by everyone. Nothing is no sacred cows anymore. That's another characteristic of this time. And anything could be right, anything could be wrong, anything could be real, and anything could be false. It's just that
Right.
that's
if
what it seems like. Yeah.
so, there comes a point where a person needs to have uh, a vision of the life that they want or the future that they want. For example, I don't know if it's still a thing to have a family, but maybe like I want to have a family. So I need to meet somebody. If I want to meet the kind of person that I who respects herself, then like I'll need to make my bed and clean the dishes. So when she comes over, it looks like, a civilized person lives here. If I don't care, if I want to live like, you know, messy, so it doesn't matter, but I at least have some vision of the life I want. And so I know how to arrange myself today, or maybe I don't, but I need to learn how to arrange myself today in order to get to that future. And not only that, there's some things like if I want to be a musician, like I have to learn my instrument. If I want to get to a home, if I want to own a home, like I have to do some things to enable me to be able to own a home. There's a few, let's just add to the mess of confusion here. The one thing is the future is so uncertain that it's hard to imagine what future I want for myself. And the second thing is, even if I can imagine some future for myself, the present is so uncertain that I can't even arrange my present because I don't even know what the laws are anymore, what's going to be, how it's going to be. Um, so I don't even know what to do today in order to get to a good future. So we're really setting the youth up for a crappy, crappy experience. Now, I have hope that they're actually going to pull out of this and that they're going to receive these drops of wisdom. They'll just open their mouths and it'll fall into their mouth and they're going to be able to pull this off. My I hope it's not too late for us, but I think that we'll be able to pass on to the next generation enough, at least stabilize some vision of what could be. I think that's how does a person get that vision? Just from suffering? You know, how does a person get to a point where they're willing to say, I'm ready to look for something outside of the rat race a little bit. I'm willing to step off of this treadmill a little bit and say that there might be something else in life. What gets a person to finally ask that question or or be interested in that?
I think the confusion itself, I would say, contributes to it. Meaning, it's like it's an indirect way of development that we're going through. We humans are developing in a way that that is very unique.
So we're in an absolute confusion. All of us. We're
It's
all
not yet
mixed up in this
absolute, but
confusion.
it's going there. It's getting there.
It's on our
Yeah,
way. We can anyway say we're all as a society pretty confused about what's going on.
right.
And the
And that's part of
Kabbalists
our
are telling,
development. Yeah,
well,
exactly.
right. So that's it. So the
Exactly.
Kabbalists are saying, well, you're headed towards here. So
Yes.
what is this confusion? What's happening to us? Let's talk about that then. From if this is, on the one hand, it's all a mess. And on the other hand, we're going towards this harmonious, eternal, fulfilled experience. So, what is this process? And why would nature be putting us through a process like this? Let's open that
First of
up.
Yeah.
all, first of all, it depends on who you ask whether or not it's a mess. I think if you're caught up in it, then you're not saying it's a mess yet. You're caught up in it. You're watching a movie. You're part of the movie, and you're not thinking about, am I in a movie or not? I mean, if you just look at, I don't know, take anyone who's claiming one thing or claiming another. They're making a claim because they're caught up in the mess, caught up in the confusion. They're not thinking that I'm confused. They're thinking this is like a war that I need to engage in. So, but then there's another section of people who are really confused. They don't know what's going on. The logic is thrown out of the window. It doesn't exist really anymore. That's a person who's confused. So I think that's kind of what that's the maybe you can say like Hanocho says like the sane majority. I think is probably that, right?
Well, I think we're absolutely headed towards greater and greater confusion. Confusion, and let's define confusion for a second. Confusion means that we are uncertain about what is real or not, what is right or wrong. That uncertainty, from a spiritual perspective, is necessary for us to evolve. Specifically, living in that uncertainty is the space where a human being can evolve. For an animal, doesn't matter what kind of animal, Seth, you can choose whatever animal you want to humanize. They know exactly what they're supposed to do. There's not a lot of confusion in their world. This grass is better, I'm going there. This wind is, cooler, and that's what my biological makeup is like. I'm going to migrate over there, and so on. There's it's a system that just works. It's a program. The human being can actually be in a state of confusion, in a state where it's unclear where to go. It's unclear who to support. It's unclear who I want to be. It's not clear what is my identity. When you're confused, when you're uncertain, you start asking questions. You start thinking. And that is the unique kind of development that only human beings go through. And in our time, we're going through it on a global level, at a collective global social level. Now, we don't really understand this process, but this is a spiritual process. This is not, it appears in the form of, more division and polarization and people just looking, because everyone is just looking for some ground to hold on.
That sounds like the opposite of spiritual.
It looks like the opposite of spiritual, but of course, and it just looks like increasing division. But again, this is happening because we are becoming more, we are questioning reality more. So, within nature's plan, this is inherent within nature's plan for the development of human beings, to lead us to a state of utter confusion, in order to help us develop a completely new
So
kind of need.
maybe what
Yeah.
I think what we have to define here is that in order to exist in the physical world, we need to have some fundamental understanding of the laws of gravity, of paying bills, of brushing your teeth. Like there's some things that if you just don't know these laws, like you could do everything else right as a human, but if no one told you how to clean your mouth, you'd end up in pain and with like rotten, your teeth rotting out, right? So like there's just certain fundamental things that we have to know to live as a human. The issue is that actually inside of us is the seed of something spiritual that's trying to be born. So if we
Yes.
just
And we
remained
don't
as a
understand
bird,
it, and we have no idea about
yeah,
it.
if we just
We don't understand it. We just try to, live our life and be right again, and say who's wrong again, and so on. We don't understand what's going on. We don't understand what we're going through.
if we
Yeah.
were a bird and it comes winter, we fly south. If we're
There
a
we
bear
go.
and winter and come on, just roll with me here. If we're a bear and it gets cold, we go into hibernation. It's not
Yeah.
those are the laws of this world.
Yes.
And as a creature of this world, I understand what to do. And us 200,000 years ago, as a creature of this world, it was clear what to do. But now that we're getting closer and closer, we're being drawn towards this spiritual, this light is pulling, it's like pulling at our hearts now more and more all
Nice.
around the globe to
Mm-hmm.
people. It's pulling us into the spiritual reality. We don't know what the laws of the spiritual
Yes.
reality are. So our body still brush your teeth, wake up, go to sleep, but all the things of what am I doing here? Why am I here? What is this all about? It's a mess.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's
Oh,
very, very well
I got
said.
a
Yeah.
quote. I got a
Oh,
quote
go
for
for it.
this.
I got one
It's
too.
it's pretty. You have one?
Yeah. Go for it.
It's pretty. It's very short. Rabash says. He says it follows
Rabash is our
that the
our teacher's
bad.
teacher, great Kabbalist, maybe, for people who don't know. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Just a Kabbalist of that wrote in a language closer to us so we can understand it. So it sounds like this. It follows that the bad is actually within us, but we don't see it. Only through the dispute does it appear. And we're talking about disputes, right?
Oh,
Hence,
nice.
if a person
Mhm.
is at peace with it, he's hopeless because he'll never be able to achieve the purpose of creation.
Oh,
There's a
we
little bit
know
more we can.
before
There's more
before we
details,
comment
but
on it, before we
that's it.
we
Yeah.
maybe say something, let me add another one to the mix. Okay,
Mhm.
here is Bal Sulam, greatest Kabbalist of the previous century, also the teacher and father of Rabash, the quote you just read. So he says in Shamati, in this collection of articles, he says the concealment is a correction, because without it, man would have been unable to attain wholeness. Right? So what we're going through, this confusion, this uncertainty, is something that Kabbalists refer to as purposeful concealment. There's this is part of human evolution. It's just spiritual evolution. It's not biological evolution. This is part of what we're supposed to go through in order to be evolved into a higher level of
Why?
perception.
Why would we need to be confused?
That's a really good question. But my son is 12 these days. He just had a birthday. So he's in that stage right now when he is like a preteen, right? That's how you call that age, preteen. So he's
Yeah.
right at that point where he's beginning to really acknowledge that he's growing up. That's a very interesting situation. I'll tell you why that's relevant in a second, right? The teenager goes through I think that I'm just thinking about it since now because all of a sudden my son is at that point. And I also remember it for myself, and everyone remembers this. I mean, like teenage years, there's something very, very interesting about them. You're not a child anymore, and you're not an adult yet. And it's a state of a lot of confusion, a lot of uncertainty, and you're at a point where you're creating your identity. Humanity has to go through a similar process. Look at what's beginning to happen. Just like a teenager, a person who's like beginning to become an adult, the responsibilities of an adult are not upon you yet, but they're beginning to be. You're beginning to notice it. Look what's happening to humanity these days. We're beginning to see that whether we like it or not, nature is pushing us to a point where we're all interdependent. What can you do? You like it, you don't like it, you feel like you want to deal with it, you don't feel like you want to deal with it, you want to be on your own, you want to be something else. It doesn't matter. The problems that we're having these days, they come from a growing interdependence between all of us. And so in this way, nature is like telling human beings, where you're growing up, you're gonna be an adult soon. So just keep it in mind. I understand you're not there yet, but it's happening.
But hold on. Listen,
yeah.
as usual,
But I don't
you
want
make a lot of sense, and you're 500 years in front of humanity, and so it's like it's great information, but I want it to be helpful today. So like this is
200.
great.
No. It is
200
helpful
years.
today because the
No, it's not.
teen.
It's not that
Okay.
helpful yet because we're still. We need to be able to make like. So what do I do then with all this confusion?
So okay. So let me continue with the teenager analogy, and maybe it'll resolve itself. For a teenager, the deep down, you know you're growing up. You know you're gonna be an adult, but you're not there yet. That's where we are. That's why it's relevant. We're not there yet. I understand that we're not seeing yet, not everyone is taking these conditions of interdependence that the world, that nature has been pushing us into. I understand that people are not there yet. But deep down, you understand that you're growing up. It's just the very, very, very beginning of that stage. Change is coming. We don't know exactly what it means. The teenager doesn't know, even though it's just a few years separating a 15-year-old from being 25 and then, having to live your own life and work your own job and so on and provide for yourself and so on. It's a few years ahead, but it's way more in consciousness distance, So this is where we're at right now. We are in a world where the conditions are changing, whether we like it or not, but we are still largely unaware of it and mostly internally resistant to it. But nature then continues with its plan. And that's why we're going to see more confusion, more uncertainty. Unfortunately, the byproduct of this is division, because that's how confusion manifests. If everyone's clear about something, if everyone's confident about something, if everyone agrees on something, there's no confusion. Confusion comes with division. They're intertwined. And so, on the one hand, we're becoming more divided and confused. On the other hand, it gradually, slowly, we're still far from it, but we're going to be in front of a reality where if we don't find collective ground to stand on, we're just not going to make it.
Well,
we're not going to be able to,
could it be that the collective, could it be though that the collective ground eventually is just this, it's the suffering as a result of that, where we're not comfortable in that state before before it becomes clear, we're interconnected more. First it's just like, well, I don't like where we are, I don't like this.
Doesn't that
again, to me all of this fits perfectly the teenagehood years analogy. That's you're speaking like a teenager, and that's kind of what humanity is right now. We are preteens. In the modern world, we're no longer at a point where we can just, everyone can just do whatever they want in their backyard. The world is a different place than what it was even just 200 years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago. It's a very different place today in the 21st century. We're already like, but we, like you said, I don't feel like it, right? Well, how'd you say it? Something like that.
Right. Yeah.
So it's
Well,
preteens.
in the
That's where we
Zohar,
are. Yeah.
Rabash he says it again later on. He's quoting kind of the Zohar, and he says it turns out that if you give an excuse or a pretext that all things that one should go through can be experienced as suffering, and this is measured by neither time nor quantity or time or quantity of affliction, but by the measure of feeling, which is, that's kind of deep. That's like saying, wait a second, maybe we don't have to go through, we have to taste a little bit of the suffering, taste it a little bit, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be spread out for the entire extent. Can you just sense it already, maybe in that future state? Does a teenager even have that ability?
I think that's the wait, Seth, you really wanted to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to make a little bit of a discernment between what happens with the teenager and what happens in the spiritual process. I get the analogy. It's a normal. I mean, it makes sense. We just don't know what's supposed to happen. But becoming a teenager, it's natural, and I don't really need to do anything. I'm just going to
Hmm.
become a teenager. As long as I wake up tomorrow, I'm closer to being a teenager.
Yeah.
But the process of entering spirituality, so we are, and like to everyone who's here, it's important um, to kind of grasp these concepts that nature is intentionally bringing us to a place where the answers are not clear, to where
Yeah.
we can't solve things, to where, you think your side is justified and someone else thinks someone's, and then we got this person here in our chat. I just opened the chat. This YDS won't pay attention for 5 minutes, and he just wants to be on his rant about the Palestinian people instead of just trying to hear what's being said here. These things are so complicated that nature won't let these things be solved by having some march or saying some nice word to somebody. You push somebody off of a building, like there's only one thing that's going to happen, right? So we're in a situation now where nature will not let us. There's no pretty word to say. It's a complete transformation that will be required of us in order to enter. Like a teenager has some hope. Like he will come out of puberty. At some point, like things will bounce. We, on the other hand, could go through another world war before we get to
Some
where
people
we're
would say
looking to
we're
get to.
already in it.
Because you're going to hold on to what you think is right, and you're going to hold on to what you think is right, and forget about people like us who say that love is the only answer. There's people who legitimately will kill people on the other side, and there's people on that side who will legitimately kill people on the other side. It doesn't matter if we sit here all day long saying the only answer is love, all we need to do is connect, all we need to do is connect. Most of the people, or those people who are fighting in wars right now, they can't. They won't. They're being compelled to believe in what they believe. What nature's pushing them. These desires are awakening in them. And we can't solve it. We're getting to a point where the problems are unsolvable.
Yeah.
We
The
need
pro-
to.
I would say the problems are unsolvable, and and it's because the interdependencies cannot be untangled. This is where we're at right now. To
Okay, now we're
explain
talking.
to explain to someone, what's right or what's wrong is obsolete. It's not going to work
It's
anymore.
the wrong approach.
It's
Yeah,
the wrong
yeah.
approach to begin with.
Why?
Exactly.
Why?
Exactly. Because there's no it's not just not going to work anymore. Why? Because I can say what I think and they can say what they think. No one believes anyone. No one trusts anyone, and you ultimately you're going to believe whatever you want to believe. That's not the way for us to find common ground. In order for human beings of the 21st century to evolve into our next level and to find common ground, we're going to have to undergo an actual development of our perception. That common ground we're looking for has to be something that is beyond our intellect. It is beyond our individual egoistic perception of the world. It is a reality that comes from nature, and whether we like it or not, we're in it. And that's the reality of our interdependence. At the moment, it just feels like, oh, okay, we built a world that is very globalized. That just seems that way. That's a concealment over what is actually happening. What is actually happening is that our perception is evolving. We're gradually discovering that all of us are actually a single entity, a single network. And that's going to become a reality that no one can deny. And based on that, you can then build mutual understanding, mutual feeling. This is a hardcore, trippy kind of quote from our teacher, Michael Lightman. But I was debating whether to read it or not. Let's go for it, because we're already kind of going there. But yeah, I know it's gonna sound weird for some people, but for others it'll already be absorbed. So check this out. There's only one man in the world. The fact we see so many people and forces that behave in different ways to each other is only in order to teach us that all of it happens within one man. All the billions of people are one man. And yet look at how it divides into so many different views, thoughts, actions, and desires. When we finally wish to bring all of it together, we get the same one man, Adam Arishon, that exists from the beginning of creation. So this is we're not talking about social norms here, changing morality codes, ethics, saying who's right in this war or who's wrong in that war. We're talking about new laws, new regulations, whatever, code of conduct. We're talking about developing a higher level of perception, where every person begins to discover that there is actually just one collective consciousness that we're part of, one collective being, and we're all fragments of it. If you understood that, if you internalized that, then you would look at your conflicts and disagreements and disputes with others not as others that I need to be right and they need to be wrong. There's no such thing. Rather, the conflicts and the disputes and the disagreements are only friction on the way to further connection. That's it. It's us gradually discovering it, bumping against each other to discover that we're connected. That's what's happening. Yeah.
Imagine that all of humanity, everyone is part of this one man, this one eternally fulfilled creature. Now imagine that you are a cell in that. I'm going to read a quote from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov about he calls it the essence of peace. Now imagine this, but don't imagine it as you're Zelensky and Putin. Imagine that you're a cell inside, or Hamas versus the IDF. Imagine you're a cell in a body. Okay, even though it seems like it's talking about two people, imagine that the other one that you're making peace with is another cell in the body. He says the essence of peace is to bring two opposites together. He says, don't be deterred by seeing someone who has a completely opposite view than yours, and you think there's no possible way to have peace with them. When you see two people who are opposite to each other, Do not say that peace cannot be made between them. On the contrary, this is the essence of peace, to strive for the peace between the opposites.
Say it again. Say it again.
The
It's good.
foundation for peace.
The, the,
Yeah.
the essence of peace is to, okay, so when you see two people who are polar opposites, don't say that peace cannot be made between them. On the contrary, this is the essence of peace, to make peace between the opposites. Meaning that there's a third reality. What does it say in the Gemara or something? That there's the
Nice.
two sources are opposite to each other
Mm-hmm.
until the third one comes and resolves it. So it's totally natural that we would have all of these differing, all of this confusion
Mm-hmm.
until what's called, I don't know, we can call it here the middle line, or we can call it the light that reforms, the orcho,
The true
the light
meaning
that
of
we have.
peace. I like the
Wait,
true
but
meaning
let's we have to use
of
we have
peace.
to use real terminology now because there is no word in this world to describe it.
Yeah.
And light shines and lifts those two opposites to a level where they do exist in harmony. Did we talk here about the oxygen and the hydrogen last week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about it just last week. The oxygen and the hydrogen, it's like two flammable gases, but when they come together, it makes water. It's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Well,
This
just look
all
at the
this
human body.
confusion. Hmm?
Just look at the human body. It's
That's
if you
right.
define it as a goal. Like what goal does that? What goal does this cell have? It doesn't have just to exist by itself. It has a goal of serving the body, of continuing the life of the body. If you have a bunch of little cells that we now see, like we read at the quotes, that they don't see themselves as one man, then their goal is to preserve their own little cell and take care of their own little cell. That's their goal in life. They wake up, I'm going to take care of my own little cell. If basically what we're saying is this change, this growing up from teenager to a grown up is really just a change in the goal, and that's it. I mean, it is that simple. The question is, what's the goal, and how does
Well,
it
yeah,
become
right.
important to
So
us?
what is the goal? That's the question then. That's our next question, Chris. So what is like what okay, it's happening. I got you. Okay, fine. If I live in the corporeal world, I need to know how to brush my teeth. I need to know how to make my bed, whatever, like whatever they'll pay my bills. Okay, fine. So now, guys, you're telling me, or the Zohar is telling us, and you guys are trying to say it in a normal language, that humanity is heading somewhere, or the reality
Yeah.
is heading somewhere. And
Mm-hmm.
because of that, we're, we still have 15-year-old eyes, but we're entering into the 25-year-old world, right? To
Yeah.
use that example of
Hmm.
like growing through teenage. So,
Yeah.
but
Right.
where is it taking us? Because the book was already written. The book from the future, the
Right.
book was written in the future and was given to us now. So, unlike the teenager who doesn't really have a way to understand what's going on
Mm-hmm.
in him, hint to all the dads out there, talk to your teenagers about what's going on with them. But as Kabbalists, we already have the book that was given to us from the future about the end state. We have it now.
Yes.
We
So
already know where it's going.
that's why Kabbalists are so um, feel such an urgency to spread what they found, because essentially what they found is that on the one hand, yes, we have to get to that point where we feel uncertainty and confusion. We have to. Just like a teenager has to go through that state where their whole world is changing and they're not sure who they are and what they're for and what they're going to do in life. Yes, we have to go through that state. But, and it's a big but, that's the whole difference. We can go through that state knowing that we're going to become adults. And adults means connected. That's what it means at the end of the day. It means getting to that state of perception, of sensation, that all of reality is one, even your worst enemies and you are one entity, one being. Now, when you go through the chaos and the wars and the violence and the division and the disagreements from that perspective, it doesn't mean that they're not happening. As you know, it still happens. But just think about the difference. Think about the difference. If you have a fight with your spouse, and you and your spouse both know and feel that whatever happens, you're together. Today, of course, that's also not something that that all couples will go into a relationship, taking that as a given. But if you can't be separated, and that's the situation with us human beings, by nature we cannot be separated. If you can't, you just can't, then your only other way is to get along, and then it's just up to you. How much suffering and time will it take you to get along? That's it.
Right.
That's
Let's
what
add
it
another
comes down to.
nuance.
Suffering is the key.
So
Okay,
you can
so
avoid
suffering is the
suffering, you
key.
can save suffering, you can
So
save time, you can make
so
things
let's see
better.
what is the purpose. Okay, so then the confusion comes, and now okay, fine, I get it. There's a reason for the confusion, but
Yes.
I'm still not satisfied. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
what am I required? What is the okay, I feel the suffering, right? I want it to end. I agree. Okay, uncle. We say uncle like
Let,
just
let's take a
like I
simpler.
agree. Like
I just had an idea with respect to what you brought up from the chat a couple moments ago. How about this? I'm not gonna solve this, but I'm just gonna pose it as a thought exercise for anyone who's interested. So I'm looking at things that are happening in the world right now. Okay, and again, and this could be Russia, Ukraine. This could be Israel, Gaza. Right. This could be for or against whatever. What is it? Sexual freedom, gender rights, whatever debate you want to talk about. So I'm looking at myself and hey, I think these guys are wrong and these guys are right. Right? That's where you stand. That's where everyone in humanity essentially stands on anything. Now, challenge yourself by trying to, first of all, before you choose a side, and I'm not saying you shouldn't choose one, that's okay, but try to, what happens when you approach this whole situation, first taking into account that everyone you see, anyone on whatever side of the aisle, whatever side you're going to root for, all of them are parts of you. They're all you. It's all part of you, and you're responsible for all of them. Responsible. See, that's a difficult word, not a fun one, right? Teenagers don't like that one. But if you are ultimately part of everyone and you're ultimately connected to everyone is a part of you and you're responsible for them, your approach might not be that binary. It might be more nuanced, more complex, and most importantly, you're less prone to have just a destructive agenda, but rather a unifying one. You're going to look for what I agree with, what I don't agree with, but how ultimately all of this comes together. Because
you know
that's
what I
where
think
nature
we
is pushing us. Yeah.
you know what I
Go ahead.
think we need to discuss, and maybe we'll be able to open this in a further conversation. Is borders, because I need to, at the one hand, like I need to protect myself. I can't just let anyone off the street into my house, right? But on the other hand, my goal is that all humanity will be one and we could share everything with everyone. And like, how do these,
Right.
Well,
like,
wait a
what
second.
is
But look at Oregon, though. Look what just happened with Oregon. Remember they said they had all the
Oregon?
drugs.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
state of Oregon, the
yeah,
Northwest.
yeah.
Ah,
They
Oregon.
legalized.
Ah, Oregon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oregon.
Well, I'm getting all float. I see
Yeah,
something's not right here.
something's not
They
right with
legalized
your
all the drugs.
visual. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
They
ahead anyway.
legalized all the drugs. Remember?
Yes. Yeah, I do remember. We talked about it.
They walked that
I
back
think.
now. And
Ah, did
all
they?
this homelessness thing, they're becoming more strict. So they tasted what it was like to be happy, all go lucky. Everyone's be open
No
minded for
borders.
everyone.
A-
No, yeah, basically no
Actually,
borders. Yeah, they saw and they walked it back.
you said
What?
Oregon. I thought you said Oregon, and
Yeah, I did too.
that's a good example. That might be even a better example.
Take it.
In
Take
in
it.
a body in your body right now, there are many organs and tiny organs, organelles, even inside the cell, and they all have some membrane in whatever shape or form that separates them from the rest of the body. And yet they're working for the body. So you have to be separated in order to be connected. This is not such a simple thing. If the entire body was without borders, completely no borders, no membranes, then it would just be one soup. There would be no organization that creates life. There would be no pattern of life. So it's not that simple. It's not that simple. And our mistake, and what I see unfortunately happening obviously in politics, and then as a result in the public. I see it a lot in the Israeli public now where I live. I see it in the US. It looks like that as well, and in all the modern countries today where there is like political debates, we tend to think about this versus that, left versus right, against or in favor, instead of seeing how can these two opposites work together. And if you look at nature, again, we gave the example of the body, but you can find it anywhere in nature. There is the plus and minus work together. The connection and the separation work together. The borders, on the one hand, in our body, as well as the communication above the borders, is what creates the organization that we call the organism of the human body. So this is, we unfortunately, we are still, very much confused, very much divided, very much under concealment, and we can't see how nature works in wholeness. And so while we swing from, this side to that side, being in favor of those, against these, and so on, we can't see the one breathing process. Even breathing, right? You inhale, you exhale, completely opposite actions. All throughout nature, you will see opposite actions, but that interplay between them, that's what creates life. That's where life resides. That's why we Kabbalists are helping us see that nature is pushing us to not push anyone away, rather include everyone in a greater understanding of peace, a greater understanding of oneness, where plus and minus can live together. Yeah,
we're being forced to ask, to question, to hope for something more, because we won't be able to solve this by me overpowering you or you overpowering me, or my argument's more logical, your argument's more emotional. You were right in this year, I'm right in the next year, 4 years later, you'll be right. We don't have that luxury anymore. We're all being pushed through all of this to look for an answer outside of this typical logical system, for a spiritual answer, for something whole, something that includes everyone, some place where everyone is cared for, some place where everyone has enough, some place where everyone lives in peace, some place where everyone feels fulfilled. And that's why we get together. That's why we study what we study. That's why we're friends with each other. That's why we want to be here and talk to you from week to week. We appreciate all of your questions, comments that you leave live, that you leave throughout the week when you hear this. We take this really seriously. It's not like a hobby. This is like life or death. We're living this as this is a process that we're going through as humanity, and we're at a crossroads. It's not just like a teenager is naturally going to grow up. We have to determine our good future, and that's what we want to do. And we will be back again next Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern to talk about it again.
Bye, everybody.
Quante volte ho tentato di vivere in un mondo che voleva solo di vivere, con la speranza che qualcosa di vero si nascondesse dentro questa realtà. Così alla stregua di un vagabondo ho incominciato a cercare nel mondo, in che mi son trovato qui con voi, il vegano più bello che ho. למען החי ורעי, למען החי ורעי, למען החי החי ורעי, הדברה לשלום בך, למען החי ורעי, למען החי ורעי, למען החי החי ורעי, הדברה לשלום בך.
Costruiremo tutti insieme un grande cuore, in grado solo di donare un grande amore. Insieme progetteremo, mai più lasciarci vorremmo. Brindiamo a questa nuova umanità. Insieme scopriremo il giorno dove l'amore è la costante del mondo. L'amore dimora qui perché è in quell'amico che cammina con